Hey guys, thanks for joining me. Today I'm here with Andreas, who is doing really well on Etsy, even on Amazon merch. You're killing it this year so far, man. And I'm excited for you to share your story. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm super happy to be here. I've watched your channel for years, and yeah, you helped me so much. So I'm just super excited to be here and hopefully help someone else out there.
Yeah, man. It sounded like you were taking after like my journey with my top two opportunities like Amazon, Etsy, and really capitalizing on them. You can definitely build up. I would let me know if you agree a full-time income from selling print on demand on those platforms. Like, what are your thoughts? How has your experience been?
Yeah, it's for me, it's a full-time income. When I started this, just to preface that, I quit all of my other like income streams. I had like a small marketing agency before this, just helping us a small set of artists with their marketing, with their Facebook ads marketing. Quit all of that to go full on with print on demand, and had a small buffer of money to make this work. So I could like live off of that for like 6 months. And at the 6 month mark, I was making about $500 to $1,000 a month, which was really hard to live off of. But at this moment, I'm put in like half an hour to an hour during the slow month of during the slow summer months basically, and I'm still making 5K from Etsy, and that's a low margin. Not trying to humble brag or anything like that. Just trying to state that it's super possible to make print on demand work in 2024. You just gotta have to put the effort into it, as it's given me a like last year I did over 100K in profit, so it's giving me a huge bump up to my income, and I'm super happy with the progress of it.
Yeah, and you said like 5K profit in these slow months, right? So you're definitely going to project that Q4 heats up and you're going to get multiples of that.
Yeah, for sure. Like doing last Q4 in 2023, I did about 150 to 300 orders a day. So I did over 100K in revenue in both months, in both November and December. Yeah, I'm aiming for. I'm thinking I'm gonna probably do a bit more than that, and with not much extra work really, except for the fulfilling work when it comes to Q4 and all the customer service and stuff like that.
Yeah, I love that. And I always like to just point that out cuz I mean, let me know if you agree, like when someone's getting started, it's almost like you have to play mind games unless you start in the fourth quarter and you're just like right away successful. You have to like play mind games to see the 12-month, 365-day business cycle. Things might be slow in June, but don't worry, if you keep pushing, you're going to be rewarded handsomely in November, December. Like,
Hell yes! Like I mean, I watched so many of your videos where you always tend to say that I know this. This is not a direct quote by you, but you basically just always say that I know that the effort that I'm putting in now in the slower months of like June will be rewarded in Q4. So that's why I'm doing it today. You've said that multiple times, and I've just taken that to heart. So when I started merch, for instance, it took me 3 months, I think, to get my first sale. And within those 3 months, I was just putting up. I was in tier 10 as everyone. I put up 10 designs up. None of them worked. Okay, I need to understand what I did wrong here. How can I do better? So I always kind of go back to the quote that I learned from Ray Dalio, which is pain plus reflection equals progress. I put stuff up, I experience some pain, nothing is working. How can I make it better? I change some stuff up, and then I progress basically. So I did that several times until I got some of my first sales that kicked me out of tier 10. And then from there on, with the knowledge that I got from doing merch every single day, testing out many different strategies, I was able now to build it to a point now where I'm earning about 2K in profit with 1 to 2 minutes of work every day. I basically just go in and check my ads, see what's sold, what newly has sold, add that into an automatic marketing campaign, and then I'm all set.
dude, I love that, man. And I love that you're mindful of the time invested because it's like, one thing to be like, oh, I make this much money, but I love that we can be cognizant of that like, hey, time is literally money, right? And everybody's time, depending on where you're at in your journey, is worth a different amount of money. You know, if you actually think about how much you made, let's just say last year, you should be able to project like how much time at a minimum, how much money your time is worth this year. Plus, if you're trying to, increase that, and so, yeah, you're not just saying, hey, these numbers, but you're saying like, this is how much work is taken to maintain these numbers. Do you mind talking about like the time it took to scale up to where you are, and like kind of maybe what crucial breakthroughs really helped push you, whether you want to talk about merch or Etsy, both?
They both do co-align, so to speak. So the only bottleneck in the beginning for me, since I don't really know how to draw, I can't really design for any like I can't really design or anything like that. So I was fresh like anyone else. So just like I am with YouTube now, I'm fresh to do YouTube. I don't feel super comfortable with camera. So I'm just putting the working. I know that I will do a video this week. I will do a video next week. I will do a video a week after that. And maybe in like a year's time, I will see some tangible, good results from that. And that's how I approach it with Etsy. Like the success in and of itself for me was just putting the effort in. Like if I uploaded every design slot that I had in merch, that's how I know that it was a successful day. I don't compare it to an outcome. I compare it to the effort that I put in. So for me, there were lots of like big things that I learned with my print on demand journey. And one of them being, as I mentioned earlier here, I did about $500 to $1,000 a month, and I was really stuck. At that point, it wasn't really good to feel stuck since I was barely getting by each month, I didn't realize why I was at this stage. But eventually, I actually nagged a bit on another YouTuber called Cassie Johnson, which you guys probably have heard of. So I nagged on her to start a small mentorship group. She did that. I joined that. And then that really took it to another level, because the bottleneck there in the beginning it was just me, my own knowledge, my own skills. So the main thing that really held me back, and I think that's probably what hold other people back too, is that when you're doing a new endeavor, you will be bad at it. It's just a preface to anything. But as you are bad, you will eventually get better as long as you put the work in, you reflect on it, and try to always get better. It's the same thing that I do with YouTube now. My first videos look really bad. They slightly get better. Then I hire an editor, and then it gets better. And then I just feel more comfortable with the camera. I have new camera gear, looks better. Everything just gets better as long as you put the work in. But the prerequisite to that is just putting the work in. So yeah, my short answer, it was a long answer to it, but I think the short answer is just knowing that the bottleneck is always the entrepreneur itself. So
yeah, no, I love that, man. And that's great perspective about like the reflection. It's one thing that I think a lot of things in life that are desirable stem from is self-awareness. Like not just doing, but like doing and understanding why we do, right? And then if it's successful or unsuccessful, it almost doesn't matter if it's like a repetitive process that's a step towards building something much bigger. Again, whether it works or not, if you can reflect and say, why didn't it work? Or it worked, why did it work? And again, like most of these things with building businesses are repetitive processes, right? Repetitive workflows. You talked about like understanding the time element. So if it's a repetitive workflow, how can we refine it and really like double down on what's working, optimize it to not take as long in the future? You know what I mean? Like if it's POD or if it's anything else. You said you ran like an agency too, helping with marketing. Like I almost feel like it's any business you run. You know what I mean? The same kind of core principles apply, and it's on us as the like business owner to really make it work. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. That's fine. Move on. But no, I thought that was
exactly.
great.
It's just important to know that the bottleneck is always the entrepreneur. So, and having that kind of frame of mind, just at least nowadays, it just lets me know that if I haven't like achieved the results that I want, then there's something in me that's missing. If I can figure that out, I can probably solve the problem faster. So in the beginning, that's also why it was super huge for me to go into to learn from Cassie, because that just upped my game to a whole nother level. But after that, I was still stuck at doing I still wanted to make at least 5K in profit each month. So after Cassie's mentorship group, I still felt that I had to up my game once again. And in February of 2023, there came a small interview on Ryan Hogue's channel, so on your channel, with Stephen Chin. And for me, that was huge. So he talked about launch strategy, break-even pricing strategy. And I just knew that I got to try this because he had such momentous results. So I tried those. I fiddle around with the nuances of it, so changing the pricing around so it works better with POD. And then that took me from doing, I did 10K, I think, and 9 to 10K in January of 2023, around 6K in revenue in February of 2023. And then I tested out different stuff in March. And then I did consecutively 30 to 50K each month up until Q4, where I did over 100K each month in revenue.
Dude, that's amazing, man. And hopefully this interview will serve as that sort of a jump off point for anybody listening. Do you mind? You don't have to get into specifics, but you're talking about launch strategies, pricing strategies. Can you just speak to this, you know, a little bit more in depth for anybody? Because I think you got their attention, right? You got my attention talking about, you know, those massive spikes in sales month over month.
Hell yeah. So I tried out I basically listened to that video over and over again and tried out what you guys were talking about. So you guys were talking about a break-even strategy. And then once it actually has gained rank, you push that to a profit pricing strategy. You push the listing to profit pricing, so that it's actually profitable. So I did that. I basically listed new stuff at a break-even point to see if it actually works. At first, I did it actually at break-even, but that didn't actually really work for me. I do POD just like anyone else, as I live in Sweden and only sell within the US. So I rely on Printify and all the print providers within Printify. But yeah, I just found that I need a $2 to $4 margin in order to cover issues or like ad costs and stuff like that. So that's what I refer to as a break-even pricing. So I list my stuff at that price where I earn a $2 to $4 margin after the Printify costs. And then once it has reached the criteria that I found works, which is either the listing has sold either 10 to 15 sales or reached a 50% visibility score on Everbee, and that's when I up the price to profit pricing. And when I say profit pricing specifically, I mean a gross margin after print. So when you sell something on Etsy and you have paid Printify, you should be left with a margin of 30 to 40%. That's what I refer to as a gross margin. So that's what I've called the profit pricing. So basically, you list the stuff with break-even pricing. You then push them with ads. So you just toggle the ads on, since it's just a toggle on Etsy. Once it has spent about $10, and if you see that it has sold, if it has hit the target ROAS that you need, which should be around 30 to 40% gross margin that I have, or whichever margin that you have. If it had reached the goals, I keep it on, and then I switch the pricing from break-even pricing to profit pricing. And that worked wonders for me. It made a huge difference. And yeah, it made a huge difference for me because it actually made me gain rank. And if you get sales, that leads to rank. And the more rank you get, the more sales you get. So
yep. Yeah. And the hardest sale to get is those early ones when they don't know like really what you're selling, right? The algorithm is, no human is trying to like go in and verify it. So, right. It's the Etsy algorithm trying to police hundreds of millions of listings, or on Amazon too. Similar, you know, approaches tend to work. You kind of assist it in getting it out there in front of the right customers through your SEO, make a really compelling offer through how you frame the product. Obviously a good design based on, you know, each niche, you'd probably make a different design for that niche because different niches have different design styles. You make that compelling offer. It includes all the above: the product, the price point, how you frame it. And then you get a sale, right? And you convert at a high rate. Etsy starts to like it, give you favorable placement and results. What do you know? You got a business.
Yeah, exactly. And then you're rolling. And I do want to also say that I do the break-even pricing strategy on merch too now. So I list for instance, my t-shirts on merch at 13.38, which is like the zero royalty rate. Once it has hit $10 there, I just raise them to a $7 profit.
Nice. Yeah. And I had played around with the idea of wanting to mess around on merch using software. Like there's one called Merch Flow for like the higher tier accounts. You can like automate the repricing of products. Like it still has to open up new tabs and stuff like that. I don't think there's like an API way that you can do it with some external tool. But like, you know how on Amazon, sometimes you see like minus 30 something percent discount, you know, and like I've played around with like repricing all your products to like price it high and then price it low. And you just tinker back and forth between. Because when you have that period of like the discount, you know, you're going to see an increased conversion rate and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But on Merch Van, I don't know of like a feasible way of doing it. On Seller Central, you can like literally export all your products and then do it in a spreadsheet and then import with the new pricing. And it's something that I've done in the past, but like I've just not been good about like my time spread pretty thin. So like I've been bad about like doing it more than like once or twice. But I do think it's a great idea.
Yeah, so for me, I just use the free Productor that plugin for Google Chrome, or sorry, that extension for Google Chrome. And then when I just see that this listing has a total sales amount of like 10, then I just see it. Okay, it has hit the amount needed, and you just switch that up. But tinkering with like merge flow and stuff like that sounds like it could be super good. I haven't done anything like that myself, but it sounds super interesting for sure.
Yeah, no, your approach works just as well, I'm sure. I just haven't used Product Turn nearly as much. Like Merch Flow is good for like, you know, the really high tiers. And it's actually, I think it's free if you're under tier 10,000. So
Oh, damn. I
pretty
did not know
cool.
that. Cool.
Yeah. So, and you were telling me you had almost like the reverse flow that I had. So I was like big on Amazon merch from the very beginning. That was the first exposure I had to print on demand. And I started Etsy print on demand in 2018. I would just take my merch listings, throw them up on Etsy. Back then, you know, you didn't have to do nearly as much as you do today to be successful. And, you know, I had success with that. You were saying that you do kind of the opposite. Do you want to elaborate?
Yeah, exactly. I do the exact opposite. So I found my success on Etsy, and I tried so many different strategies with Amazon, as I said. But the only like real strategy that actually worked for me was to just put up my selling designs from Etsy to Amazon. So everything is just basically tested out on Etsy, and then it's just usually just put up on Amazon. So yeah, it's basically the reverse story of what you did.
Nice. And can you like relate back to when you first got started and kind of put yourself in the shoes of somebody watching this video who is now sold like, all right, Ryan's been lying to us. I need to be prioritizing Etsy first. And you know, whichever way, you know, pick your poison. It's all good. What can like, what is the most common issue that you think they might run into? Like research, design. How might you solve that issue if you had to just project putting yourself in someone else's shoes, or what you ran into when you started that you can maybe speak to really like get running on Etsy with print on demand?
So it's hard to diagnose it as it's such a big question, but what I'd say mainly is that if you're not seeing the results that you actually want to have, there's some bottleneck that's not being, there's just some problem that's not being either diagnosed and fixed, or just not being seen to. In my experience, what actually like cracked it for me was finding a right scalable design style. So I wish I had this when I started, but the Alex Hormozy value equation really just frames this whole thing really well. He talks about what actually creates value for someone is that you have a dream outcome, you have the perceived likelihood of them actually getting the dream outcome, then you have the time delay, so the time it takes for them to actually get it, and then the effort and sacrifice it takes to actually get the product. So the top ones here, the dream outcome and the perceived likelihood of them actually getting the thing that they want, that needs to be maxed out. And the delay that it takes for them to actually get the item and the effort and sacrifice needs to be lowered as much as possible. So at the end of the day, if the design isn't there, which is the most important part, then there's nothing really to scale, because someone actually has to want the design. And I do want to say too that I'm not a designer. I'm a musician. That's what I've been since I was 8. But I don't really know how to draw. I don't know any of that. You just need to know that, like for instance, like what Steven talked about, like you have like best-selling as elements in this listing here. Okay, like here's I want to block the camera, but this listing has these kind of best-selling elements here. Then you have these listings here that has another type of best-selling elements. So on my channel, I've talked a lot about like how the college font is working super well now. And then you see like another listing that sells super good with cursive listings, so cursive type listings. What if you just combine the two and make something good yourself with that? That could be something, and it's just based on research, since you found listings that sold really well with a college types fonts, for instance, and then one listing with cursive fonts. Combine the elements and create something new with that. Because at the end of the day, it's the combination of the best-selling elements that actually creates a good design that someone actually wants to buy, and that's usually, in my opinion, the main holdback. And that was certainly in my case the main holdback for me.
No, and you impart a good perspective too. You said like maybe spend $10 on Etsy ads plus 20 cents to launch the listing. So your expenses to test are really minimal, and if you hit, you know what I mean, the upside is uncapped.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, if you feel that you're not like I still feel that Etsy in and of itself, it needs to be profitable. You can't just be your head cannot be up in the sky and just think that I'm going to be profitable someday. I'm just going to spend a lot of money. So the great thing about Etsy is that they have like 90 million customers. They're ready to buy your stuff. If you have something that they want, they will buy it, as long as the offer is there. The offer is what I mentioned earlier with the Alex Hormozi value equation, but you still need to have something that they actually want. So just testing out different design styles, and if you're going into the red with the ads, so I think ads is super good, but only if you actually have a 4 to 6 conversion rate, because that's a good conversion rate. For me, because that means that it's really likely that someone actually will buy when you are actually like pushing something. But if you have like a 2 to 3% conversion rate, then there's a high likelihood that you will actually push stuff with ads but not convert that much, and your ROAS will be quite low. So if you're not profitable, and if you're just going into the red, then if you're going into the red, only use ads on stuff that actually sell. That's a big recommendation. Don't just use ads and lose money, because at the end of the day, you need to make this profitable if you're treating it as a business. If it's being treated as a hobby, then for sure, then it can be, there's nothing wrong with that. Then you can definitely try out different types of stuff. But I only think about this as a business, as that's my approach to it. And with that, I wouldn't spend like in the beginning when I had like a 2 to 3% conversion rate, and I wouldn't spend that much on ads, since I would lose quite a lot on it. So yeah,
that's good insights. And it's funny you mentioned design as like the one thing to kind of touch on that a beginner might struggle with, because like, yeah, it's tough to know everything, especially when we're not in someone else's shoes. But yeah, I mean, I've been a talking head on YouTube for a long time, and I've definitely like interacted with a lot of people. And like, yeah, a big common denominator is one of the hardest things to diagnose, and definitely one of the most subjective things, which is design. But I love that you said a templated approach to design. Like literally, if you can just get one templated approach to design right and extend that out for a little bit, and like, yeah, eventually you need to branch out, but that's a great place to start. You'd be amazed, man, at how many times my response to like I can speak to Amazon merch like the back of my hand. Like I'm like, hey, just simplify your stuff when you start. Simplify. Like don't do crazy, gradients and text on top of images, asymmetrical elements. Like just good color contrast, symmetric, maybe even just text only, and just start there and then move on.
Yeah, for sure. And I fully agree with that, because I mean, I've seen so many beautiful designs, but like if you make a super beautiful design that nobody wants, it's not that the design itself is bad, it's just that the customer is not wanting that. If you make, like, I've had so many ugly designs that sold super well that I don't really like, and then I have some designs that I personally just like, and they don't even sell at all. So I always view like the subjective part of like a good design from the objective, from the point of view of the customer. Like the customer determines what's good or not me. And even though it's something that I find is not something, like I just create stuff, put it out, test it. If it works, it works. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Um, and having that approach just let me know that I really don't really know don't really know which ones will hit, but once they do, they can hit big, and it's usually not ever the ones that I think. Uh, that's been my experience with it, and I mean, just it's really never been the ones that I really feel like this one is super nice. It's never been one of those. It's always been like just one of those designs that I just put up. I just make it in like 5 minutes, put it up, see if it works. If it doesn't work, I just move on to the next.
Yeah, I love that, man. I wanted to ask, like, have you ever speculated? Just want your opinion. That maybe Etsy will give you, like, you know how Etsy, their fees are a percentage of what we bring in. So do you ever think that, like, by charging a significant amount, profit pricing, as you said, that maybe we get slightly favorable treatment just based on a higher price point, because if it converts, Etsy makes more money? Like, somebody early on in my YouTube channel did a one-on-one call with me. I taught them print on demand. They taught me YouTube because they were successful at YouTube and I was still small. And they said, man, you got to monetize your videos, because I wasn't even monetizing, because I didn't even plan to. He's like, YouTube likes it when you do that, because then they make money when they show your videos. And I have no clue if it's even true, but he said that and I actually believed it. So do you have any theories on that?
Oh, I've never heard that perspective before. I've no idea. It could be so. I just know that as long as I am converting well, then I will still keep on converting well. And there's lots of variables that I found with that. So having like good shop reviews is something like that. Is something that helps a lot with that. But I'm not sure with me pricing higher and then earning a bigger cut, basically pushes me more, because that also means that if you sell higher ticket items, like stuff for like $50 and up or something like that, they should be pushed higher. But I'm not sure. It could be like that. I've never heard that before, but in my experience, it's just been that as long as I'm converting well, I have good shop reviews. I just noticed that my shops overall get like pushed more and more. But at the end of the day, it's each listing that's just performing. So if it's I can have one that sells super well and another one that sells super bad. So yeah, it's never a given. It's just always a test for me. And I've also put up thousands and thousands of listings on my shop, with the majority of them not even working. So yeah.
No, that's great to share too, and thank you for sharing that, because yeah, I think most people have a similar experience, and this is what's so dangerous. I think if someone's a beginner and they just jump in, they might spend an hour on that first design, which is completely fine. Like, you're getting better at everything when you spend time and think about each element of a design, and you probably researched it to even arrive at that at the decision to make that design. But it just can't threaten the long-term vision of what you're building if what you built was unsuccessful, right? It's like, you got to be willing to try and understand that most likely not everything will be successful. I mean, they call it like the 80-20 rule, like where, maybe 20% of your listings make, the majority of your profits. And I think that is likely applying to most people that do this successfully.
Hell yeah. And I mean, that's been my journey. And I even find it to be even smaller than 20%. So 20% might sell, but 20% of that 20%, or honestly, it's 10 to 20% of my listings sell. And then it's 10 to 20% of those 10 to 20% that actually sell really well. So it's only just a fraction. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm a musician. I've been that my whole life. And one of the main things that actually held me back with the progress of that was being really attached to the outcome. So I could spend like months on a song and not release stuff, where some people can release stuff a lot more frequently and just gain more progress with their journey. And with Etsy, I did that thing too. I made designs, put those up. They weren't like, I put up thousands of listings and most of them were just trash. But I just not being attached to the outcome itself is yeah, I've learned that the hard way, but that's one of the main variables to actually why I'm successful with Etsy, because I don't really care if someone buys or not. I'm glad if they do, but I will still be making a new listing until I see the desired result that I want. Like with YouTube now, for instance, I will put up a video this week, I will put up a video next week, and then I'm hoping that in a year I'll maybe be good enough to actually yeah, I'll be able to know more to be able to have a video that hits better each time, so to speak.
Yeah, and I know exactly what you mean when you're saying that too, by the way. It's like it's that mindset, man. You know, like I think a lot of successful people probably have a similar like mindset in that like the work required to achieve our goals, it's not like a question of if we'll do it. It's like you said, I will do it, and then I will do it again, and then I will do it again, and I know what I'm working towards. Like I had the exact same mentality when I started YouTube. Like I just knew that like anything else in life, it's only going to get easier, but it's not going to feel good when you start. You know what I mean? Talking into a camera lens and a microphone when you're in a room by yourself. It's weird.
Yeah, exactly. It feels weird and you kind of uncomfortable, but I mean, like when you just put the reps in, you just get better at it, and the more you do that, the results kind of come by themselves. As long as you just, as long as you follow the equation of pain plus reflection equals progress. And a good way to just that I've always had is that as long as I'm putting the effort in, then it's been a successful day. So I'm not saying that you should go all in hustle. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that like I want to put up at the moment. I'm putting out 2 videos a week. I'm aiming for that. At least I'm recording 2 videos a week. Might not post because I'm still trying to figure stuff out. But as long as I record 2 videos a week, then I've done what's required. And then I'm trying to make things better with thumbnails and with stuff like that. But the whole thing is it was the same thing with Etsy and POD. As long as I'm doing the work required, then it's a success. It's a successful day. The unsuccessful days are when you're not hitting the goals that you have for the specific day. That's how I always see it. And it's super easy to be consistent when you do that, because then you really feel good as long as you hit the targets that you set for each day.
Yep. It's kind of like, you know, you know, if your goal is to make money, you know, that will come, right? But it's like the goal to getting there to profitability and massive success, it's not going to like necessarily rear its head on a daily basis. So you just have to like have your daily goals, hit them, and know that you are closer and you will get to be where you want to go.
Exactly. For sure.
Yeah. And by the way, I did a bad job plugging your YouTube channel, but it'll be the first link in the description. Anybody watching, check out Andreas's YouTube channel. Do you want to briefly kind of talk about like what your goal is with that, man? We talked off camera. I know you're genuinely really trying to like it's one thing to say, I'm going to deliver this message from experience to help, but you seem like you're more than most like genuinely focused on that success manifesting for the people that watch your content. So do you want to just briefly talk about anything like related to your channel?
Thank you so much for the kind words. I'm super happy about that you feel that way. But yeah, the only thing with YouTube, and because I just noticed that with Etsy, as long as I'm providing a lot of value, I know that I'm for the end customer, then that means that I will be rewarded too. So with my YouTube channel, the only goal is to help people like me. Like I live in Sweden, I don't live in the US, but I only sell within the US. And there's lots of hurdles with that. Like I've had so many talks about like VAT, people reaching out about that. VAT doesn't have to be hard. There's just some concepts that you need to know. But my main goal is to my main goal overall with the channel is just to help people like me that doesn't live in the US but want to do POD and want to enable their own life through POD. And I'm an open book with it. I don't want to like I'm living off of Etsy, so I don't want to out my shop. But anything that doesn't do that, I'm happy to answer anything like that, and happy to do videos about anything as long as I'm not outing my bread and butter, so to speak. But the only goal is to serve and to help people like me that doesn't live in the US that want to try POD and make it work.
Yeah, and every person who dares do a YouTube video about Etsy soon learns. We were joking about this, about like how hard it is to not show your shop sometimes, like whether it's in like the autocomplete of a browser you use or a tool, it's like showing your logo, or you know what I mean? There's like so many things that you have to like blur out. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, like you spend most of the time with a YouTube video just blurring stuff.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. And I mean, the only thing is, as I just know that it's a weird thing, but I just know that if I can really help someone on the other end of this, I might not see it. I might not see it today. I might not see it tomorrow, but I know that I will be rewarded for that later on. It might not be that through that exact person, but I just know that if I can just bring value to other people's life and help people, that will make my life better in different types of ways. So the only aim with the channel is just that, to just help people with the things that I know, which is mainly now Etsy print on demand.
Yeah, and you got my vote of confidence, man. And it's like you're definitely a genuine person, so I'll be subscribing and I'll be recommending your channel. And I appreciate you, taking time to be here today. Like you said, it's like full circle years later. Love that you're successful, and I know that like the best is definitely in front of you, man. So I'm excited to see like what's next, and not just for POD, but your YouTube, and if you extend that into anything else.
Thank you so much. And I mean, it really feels like that, because I came to you for help. I got help with that, and that was the that was the time when I was making nothing on this. So I'm just super happy to be here and super grateful to be able to chat with you with these results, and hopefully be able to help someone on the other end with Etsy and print on demand.
Yeah, man. And I'm sure you've inspired people that can relate to where you were, just a few years back, you know what I mean? And do you have any like words of wisdom for them, any words of inspiration just to like help them get through the hardest part?
Yeah, I think setting expectation is a big thing. So just knowing that if you want to hit, for instance, like I was always going into this with at full throttle. So I went to this. I went all in. But I mean, if in the beginning, since the main bottleneck usually is it's always honestly the entrepreneur. If you don't go into this and just really immerse yourself within the world of POD, it's really hard to make it work. At least, yeah, it's really hard to make it work, because that was the only thing that I thought about, since I had to think about it, since I was in a position where I needed to make it work. So if you're someone out there and you're kind of young, you don't have kids, you don't have like any responsibilities, then I think it's a great thing to do it, and to just cut the cord, go into it. Because I think I heard it from Tony Robbins, but it's good to burn your boats. And what I meant by that is just cutting, like if you like in life, usually this also comes from Tony Robbins. In life, you usually get what you want. You usually get what you need, not what you want. So if you need to make it work, you can usually make it work.
Dude, I love that saying, by the way. I've never heard that. That's so good.
Thanks so much, man. Yeah, I mean, I've done that. I've tested it. It's really stressful. But if like the circumstances allows it, and if you feel like you want to do it, I mean, I don't recommend it for anyone, but if you feel like you want to do it too, then definitely go for it. Because the likelihood of you actually conquering the island, so to speak, with the burning the boats analogy, is really high, since you need to make it work. Since you put that in.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. Like, dude, I miss those days too, when I would be back in the beginning, and like all I cared about was being successful with, I was doing print on demand and FBA simultaneously, but there's a lot of crossover. And like, I was reading forums, listening to podcasts, watching YouTube, just so immersed in it. And like, it didn't matter that on the side, like I had a whole nother like financial life that made way more money than most, right? Like, because I still treated this other stuff like life or death, even though it was the exact opposite of that. In my head, it was life or death, because I wanted a different life for myself. And that's what it took, and these like mantras from people that are mega successful, Hermosi, Tony Robbins, all these great people. Who'd you quote earlier? The investor, like
Ray Dalio.
Yeah, Dalio, dude. It's like, I love that, you're absorbing, because man, it's like, it's 2024. Like, think about all the advantages we have, even with launching a print on demand business. What the heck is that? Go back in time 20 years, 30 years, maybe 20 years is too soon, but 30 years, and explain that to somebody who wants to go into business and thinks they need to go pay rent for a retail space and then stock the shelves, hire employees, all this crap, and then tell them that POD is possible today. You know what I mean? And it's like, man, like we're so blessed to have not only these business models where we can leverage a whole network of printers like Printify, have all the software automated, all this stuff, and learn from, people that are mega successful just in the form of a podcast. I'm crazy. I listen to everything at 2x speed, but I listen all day, man. It's motivation and knowledge that you can learn through them having lived it, and then through you doing your own business, apply it in a practical sense. It's amazing. And then you're here sharing it on an interview. It's like a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I feel the same way. And the takeaway from what you just said, in my opinion, is that it's what's needed to make it work. Like, you get what you need, you don't get what you want. So you need to make it work, and you need to have some incentive to actually, at least this is how I felt. So I can only speak on my own experience, but I needed to make it work. Like, I was making nothing, and like the overhead, like with just like $500 to $1,000 for, like, I'm 30 now. But like for a 20-something-year-old, that's almost like that's it's just basically, at least here in Stockholm, it's the living expenses to a minimum. So, but being able to feel that, having like needing to make it work, is what actually pulls you through, since you have to think about it. So yeah, I think the biggest takeaway from what you said is that you need you need it. You have to need it. You can't just want it, because you get in life what you want. No, sorry, you get in life what you need, not what you want.
Yeah. That's such a great quote, man. And a great point to wrap on. So I'm going to link to your YouTube channel. Was there anything else you wanted to leave us with before we wrap up?
And no, I think that's good. I'm just super happy to be here. So thank you so much for having me, man.
Yeah, it was great, man. And then you're definitely going to have to come back in the future, because I know you got big things on the horizon. But thanks for being here, Andreas.
Yeah, thank you so much, man.